Charles Edward Stuart was born in the Palazzo Mutti in Rome on December 31st, 1720. He was the son of James Francis Edward Stuart, the exiled Jacobite pretender to the throne of Great Britain, and the Polish princess Maria Clementina Sobieska of King John III Sobieski. The Stuarts were exiled to Italy when Charles's grandfather, James II of England and VII of Scotland, was deposed from the throne in 1688 during the Glorious Revolution. The Stuart supporters, called the Jacobites, who were named after the Latin translation Jacobus for James, supported the return to power of the Catholic Stuart dynasty. Alongside his younger brother Henry Benedict, who was born in 1725, Charles grew up in a privileged environment. From an early age, he received a solid education. When he was already fluent in English, without a hint of an accent, he also became fluent in Polish, Latin, French, and Gaelic. Charles was also introduced to hunting and music. Slowly, while growing up, Charles became determined to regain his father's throne at all costs. At the age of only 14, he took part in the War of the Polish Succession, and in the years that followed, he spent much time in France rallying support for the Stuarts. Despite his somewhat ambitious expectations, Charles managed to obtain France's help. With the logistical support of Louis XV, who was at war with England himself due to the War of the Austrian Succession, Charles set sail for Scotland, where he landed on July 23, 1745. After landing on the island of Eriskay, the local Jacobite follower Ranald MacDonald was able to raise an army for Charles, consisting of members of several Highland clans, Lowlanders, Irish and Scottish soldiers in the French service, and some English volunteers. With this, Charles began the Second Jacobite Rebellion, called the 45, after the year in which the rebellion took place. Initially, Charles was able to win a few battles. He was hailed as a charismatic leader and captured Edinburgh on September 17, 1745. However, he had to abandon an initially successful march on London, as a hoped-for uprising of English Jacobites failed to materialize, and his Scottish supporters had no interest in moving through England. Despite this, Charles's plans seemed to run smoothly until April 16, 1746. On that day, on the plain of Culloden, a poor strategic choice by Charles and the strength of the army of his opponent, Prince William, Duke of Cumberland, overwhelmed Charles's army, which was exhausted due to the last months of fighting. In a short amount of time, the English troops won the battle. For the Highlanders, the damages were enormous. In addition to an estimated 2,000 casualties, their culture was permanently damaged by the English. The clans were no longer allowed to wear the tartan as their traditional uniform, and those who had fought alongside Charles were hunted down and killed. Unlike many of his comrades in arms, Charles managed to escape. Despite the enormous reward of £30,000 on his head, with the help of the young Flora MacDonald, who decided to dress him as a woman, Charles managed to live in hiding for several months. On September 20th, Charles left Scotland for good from the Isle of Skye, bound for France, where he received a warm welcome. Although he was back on French soil, Charles did not forget his Scottish allies. Though it is told that Charles abandoned Scotland after the Battle of Culloden, this is not what happened. He continued to ask for France's help, but seeing how Louis XV was engaged in peace talks with Britain, he was unwilling to extend further support to Charles's cause. Consequently, Charles sank into a deep depression. When France obtained peace with Britain, Charles left France, and for several years he lived with his mistress, Clementina Walkinshaw, with whom he had a daughter, Charlotte Stuart, who was born in 1753 in what is now known as Belgium. Charlotte wasn't legitimized by her father until 30 years later. As Charles became addicted to alcohol, Clementina left him. In 1772, Charles married Prince Louis of Stolberg-Gedern, who was not yet 20 years old. The couple lived in Rome for a while and then moved to Firenze, where Charles acquired the Palazzo di San Clemente. Unfortunately, his marriage was not a happy one, and his wife left him after 8 years, accusing him of mistreating her. Over the years, his health deteriorated, and although Charles had a complicated relationship with his daughter Charlotte, she came to care for him. On January 31st, 1788, Charles Edward Stuart died of a stroke in Rome without ever having seen the land of his ancestors again. He was buried in the Frascati Cathedral, and his body was transferred to St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican in 1807, where his father and brother were already buried. Although Pope Clement XIII denied Charles his father's full title as King of England, Scotland and Ireland after his father's death in 1766, the Pope posthumously recognized Charles's claim to the throne. Thank you for watching.